right, y'all. Welcome to week 4, where we're going to be talking all about the self. So way back in week 1, which really wasn't that long ago, we talked about how communication helps us meet different needs. And one of those needs was identity needs. And so that's kind of what we're going to explore today. We're going to be talking about the self concept and how it develops. And we're also going to be talking about self-disclosure and different models of self-disclosure. So in order to communicate with another person, we first need to figure out who we are and distinguish ourselves from other people, because this is interpersonal communication, not intrapersonal communication, which basically just means that you communicate with yourself. And this has huge implications for boundaries in particular. And I know that that's something that a lot of folks wanted to work on in this class, is boundaries and being able to communicate our needs clearly and manage conflict with other people. So I want to propose a quote for you regarding figuring out who we are in relationship with other people by Brene Brown. Maybe some of you have heard of her. And she says that boundaries are a prerequisite for compassion and empathy. We can't connect with someone unless we're clear about where we end and they begin. If there's no autonomy between people, then there's no compassion or empathy, just enmeshment. So what this means is that I need to know where I end and you begin. Hence, we develop what's called a self-concept. And a self-concept, from your book, is basically a relatively stable set of perceptions that we hold about ourselves. It's basically who you think you are. It includes our roles, our values, likes and dislikes, any of our skills and talents, our emotional states. And part of the self-concept that we have is also tied to self-esteem. Self-esteem is a part of the self-concept. And that, in comparison to the self-concept, is basically an evaluation of our self-worth. It's your judgments of yourself, whether you're good, you're bad, lovable, unlovable, and whatnot. Public service announcement: you are lovable just as you are. You don't need to change anything about yourself in order to get someone to love you. And if somebody ever tells you anything differently, then they are probably suffering from their own issues of self-worth. Just a little PSA there for you. So in terms of figuring out how the self-concept develops, one of the ways that it develops is partially through biology. So anything like personality traits, that's going to largely be determined through our genetics and our biology. But another primary way that we develop our self-concept, well, there are two other primary ways that we develop our self-concept, and that is through reflected appraisal and social comparison. Now, reflected appraisal is basically when people tell you who you are based on your communicative interactions with them. It's often called the looking glass self, and it's as if someone is holding up a mirror to you and showing you who you are. As we go through life, we tend to log information that people tell us about ourselves, and we tend to internalize a lot of this information over time. And something else to note is that we tend to hold more weight to people that we consider significant in our lives, or those who we value, admire, and like the most. So as an example, I grew up with a stepbrother who often called me fat, ugly, stupid throughout most of my childhood. And for a really long time, I believed that about myself. But these days, people tend to describe me more as smart, disciplined, compassionate, goal-oriented, those kinds of things. And so while it's taken a while for me to believe them, the more I hear those things from people, especially people I trust and admire, the more likely I am to believe them. So those have become more of a part of my self-concept of who I think I am. Another way that we develop our self-concept is through social comparison. And so this is basically where we are observing and comparing ourselves to others in terms of how similar to or different from others we are. And we also use this as an opportunity to make judgments about whether or not we are superior or inferior to them. And it sounds pretty messed up, but that is the reality of how we develop our self-concept. And this is particularly impactful when it comes to social media, because social media is a highly curated place. People tend to only post the information about themselves that paint themselves in the best light. So if you're constantly scrolling social media and you're comparing yourself to people who are on there, chances are that can tend to lead to more depression, eating disorders, and just an overall poor mental health. I can't say that correctly right now. And that problem is even worse when people tend to follow strangers versus people that they know in real life. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that when we follow strangers, we actually don't know a lot about what their life is like outside of social media. Whereas if we're following friends and family, we tend to know that what they're posting on social media is only a part, a little small fraction of their life. Now, a really fun concept to play with regarding who we are is this idea that we have both private selves and public selves. And we tend to vary who our public self is depending on the circumstance. So our private self or our perceived self is that person that we think we are to the core, who we are in private. Then we also have public selves or presenting selves. And this changes based on the context and the person that we're engaging with, the situation that we're in, etc. The idea behind our presenting self or our public self is that we tend to perform our identities to others. Who we are in private is not the same person that we present out in public. And we have lots of different reasons why we might do this. This presenting self is oftentimes called face. So when someone is trying to help another person maintain their public self-image, perhaps from embarrassment or something along those lines, that can be referred to as saving face. And that concept might come up a few more times throughout the semester. Now, we manage impressions of ourselves or our public selves for a variety of reasons. One reason is that we try to start and manage relationships with other people. Maybe we want someone to think that we're charming or witty or funny. Or for example, I happen to have two really little brothers. There's a huge age gap here, but they're 6 and 8 years old. And they like to play Roblox. And I have absolutely no interest in playing Roblox. Like, it's not a game that I am particularly thrilled about. However, they do, so I will play it with them. And I'll do that because I want to be close to them and maintain and manage that relationship. They don't know any different. They just think I'm the cool sister. Another reason why we manage impressions is to gain compliance of others or to kind of get people to do what we want them to do. And these could be people that we're close with, or they can be strangers. So maybe we want someone to do a favor for us, so we might behave a little bit differently. Or maybe we dress up a little bit if we have to go to court and we want a judge to rule in our favor. We tend to play with our public selves in that way. Another reason why we manage our impressions is to save others' face, which I already mentioned. So we'll modify the way that we present ourselves in order to support the way someone else wants to be seen. So for instance, I filled in for my boss during a work meeting a couple weeks ago when she couldn't be there. And someone brought up a project that I happened to know that she completely forgot about. But rather than throw her under the bus and say she forgot, I simply told them that she was working on it and she was going to have a more accurate status update for them the next week. So I wanted to be able to manage the impression that I knew she wanted to present to other people. Another reason why we manage our impressions of ourselves is to explore new selves. So we might experiment with different ways we want to present ourselves as a means of self-improvement, or to see if we like ourselves better, or if other people like us better if we try on new identities. So for instance, I used to be a little bit of a homebody, but I wanted to see what it was like to be more of an outdoors kind of person. So I started to talk to people more about hiking and camping and other outdoor activities. And now I could say that it's one of my favorite things to do, and I made a lot of friends while doing that. So I am now also a hiker. That is now one of my public selves. Now, there are a lot of ways that we manage our presenting selves, and those ways include manner, appearance, and setting. So when we're managing our presenting selves with manner, this involves the words and nonverbal actions that we use. So for example, our posture, our language, our smiles and facial expressions, code switching, those are all different ways that we might manage our presenting selves. Another way is our appearance. So what we wear, what we drive, the jewelry that we have, our hairstyles, those might be other ways that we present ourselves. So right now I'm not wearing a graphic t-shirt because I don't want to distract y'all, and I'm kind of trying to present myself as being a little bit more professional than I might be in my everyday life or wearing gym clothes or anything like that. So I'm managing my public self through my appearance right now. Another way that we manage our presenting selves is through setting. So how we decorate our room or our homes or our offices, how we keep our car clean or not. Those might all be different ways that we manage our presenting selves. So for example, there is no way I am ever going to show you the rest of this room because you will then get to see just how messy and untidy it is. I'd rather you see what I have right in this little box right here because it's carefully curated, and there's no way that you need to know that your teacher does not have her stuff together, or the fact that this is my bedroom too. This isn't just my home office. I have a roommate. So these are all ways that I'm managing my public self to you via this video. So we have our idea of ourselves. We kind of know who we are, at least to some degree. But how do we communicate that to other people? We let people know who we are through what's called self-disclosure. And self-disclosure is any personal information that we intentionally reveal about ourselves that wouldn't otherwise be known to the other person. So the key words here are personal. It has to be personal information. It has to be intentionally shared rather than accidentally. And it has to be information that would not have otherwise been known to the other person. It should also be honest. I think that kind of goes without saying. If you're lying to the other person about how you are, that is not real self-disclosure. Now, your book talks about a couple of different models of self-disclosure. One of those models is the social penetration model, and then the other model is the Johari window. So regarding the social penetration model, we tend to reveal different information about ourselves in two dimensions, breadth and depth. Breadth refers to the variety of topics that we tend to discuss about ourselves with other people, while depth refers to the spectrum of how impersonal versus personal that information is. It's kind of like an onion. So you have like the peripheral layers on the outside. This might include what your age is, what you majored in college, where you're from, where you've lived in your life. And then the more middle layers, the intermediate layers, those might be any political beliefs or maybe even some likes or interests that you have. And then you have those central layers of the social penetration model. And those are those really core parts of yourself, those really super personal pieces of information that you might share with another person. These might include your values, your traits, your fears, any bits of your self-awareness that you have, deeper parts of your self-concept, and even your self-esteem. So you might share how you feel about yourself. So the social penetration model will look differently based on the type of relationship and interactions that you're having with someone. So we might be able to talk to our coworkers about a variety of different types of information, which would be breadth, by the way, but we might not be able to reveal our fears, our problems at home, any of our values, or even our self-esteem to our colleagues. But generally, it's thought that the closer we are with someone in the relationship, the more breadth and depth we have in our self-disclosure. The second model of self-disclosure that we're going to talk about is the Johari window. Now, I'll be honest, I don't really know how to pronounce it. I've always called it the Johari window, but I do know that it was made by Joseph Luft and Harry Ingham, and they combined their first names together. So I think it might actually be the Johari window. Regardless, Johari, I might use it interchangeably. You can too. I don't care. This model is basically the idea that we have this big window that contains all of the information there is to know about ourselves. And that window is divided into 4 different quadrants. We have the open quadrant. So this is information that is known both to ourselves and to other people. We also have the blind quadrant, which is information that is not known to ourselves, but other people do know it about us. So we are blind to that information. We also have the hidden quadrant. So this is information that we know, but we're not willing to share with other people. So other people don't know this information. And then finally, we have the unknown quadrant. So that's information that we have no idea about ourselves, nor does anybody else. And you might be wondering, how do I figure out what that information is? And the truth is, you find it by trying new things and challenging yourself to take risks. And in doing so, you learn more about yourselves. Now, another key about the Johari window or the Johari window is that this information can move from one quadrant to the other depending on who you're in a relationship with, if and when you reveal it, any feedback you get from other people, and new things you try. So let's say you tried something new and you learned something about yourself. Maybe you choose to share that with other people. Maybe it goes into the open, or maybe you keep that hidden from other people because you don't want them to know about it. So then it goes into the hidden quadrant. So just because information is in one quadrant right now doesn't mean it can't move to another one. So these are just a couple of different models of self-disclosure, but if you have any issues with this, come back to this video because you're going to be using these concepts for your first major assignment in the class. So these are all ways that I'm managing my public self to you via this video. I know that it's and that all comes down to no. So in terms of figuring out how the self-concept develops, there are a couple of things that, personality traits might come up, and both in and out of the workplace, which